service requires private dollars. You need money to get elected. To run for office and start raising money, a candidate must first have a treasurer.
A candidate must have filed a treasurer with the body that is handling that particular election.
In many cases, candidates often will just appoint themselves as their campaign treasurer, and there's nothing wrong with that either.
The treasurer does not have any responsibilities other than having their name on the paperwork. It's the candidate who's responsible for ensuring that the reports are turned in a timely manner.
Candidates have to report the money they raise and spend and where that money came from or went. It's not supposed to be used for personal expenses. The list of do's and don'ts is long, and the line can be a little fuzzy.
A candidate can use their campaign funds to pay for childcare expenses, to facilitate their travel in connection with having to participate in campaign events.
At the state level, campaign finance rules are set by the Texas Ethics Commission.
State level officials file their reports with us. Local officials file with local governments.
When running for office, candidates must file one campaign finance report 30 days before Election Day, then another 8 days before the election. Then, 4 days before Election Day, local candidates are required to stop taking donations.
That is not a state rule, that's a city rule.
Well, these donations do have to be deposited into a bank.
That account must be separate from a candidate's personal bank account, but it can have their name on it. In San Antonio, there are campaign contribution limits. The state doesn't have any.
So a mayoral candidate can raise $1,000 from one person. So like you could donate to a mayoral candidate $1,000, and then city council candidates are $500 limits.
That's per person or entity. Even if a large company wants to donate directly to a candidate, it has to stick to that limit. And those limits are in place 1 year before Election Day. So if Max wants to donate the max of $1,000 to the potential mayor, he can do that only once in the 365 days before the election.
What's different is political action committees.
Under law, it is defined fairly broadly as any group of 2 or more people whose principal purpose is to accept political contributions or make political expenditures.
PACs don't often donate directly to a candidate. If they do, the donation limits still apply. Money from a PAC can indirectly benefit a candidate or an issue through ads, for example. Remember Proposition A in the recent city election?
Do you want to pay for the bills of shoplifters? You will if Prop A is passed.
And there were several PACs that were formed against Prop A, and they were reported through our system. They had to do a 30-day report and an 8-day report. And we don't have contribution limits for PACs.
So they could spend $1 million on advertising if they wanted to.
Yeah, I think they might have.
While the state and the city collect campaign finance reports, they don't check them.
We take them at face value and we lock them down and we make them public.
There is a statutory sort of randomized audit process where a percentage of the reports will be reviewed regardless of whether a complaint has been filed. But we're a small agency and we get many thousands of reports each year.
We don't have authority to enforce anything. You know, you have a lot of people that are watchdogs, right?
Yeah, groups like ours, we are always on the lookout. My name is Anthony Gutierrez. I'm the Executive Director of Common Cause Texas.
Watchdog groups like Common Cause Texas monitor what elected officials do and how they spend their donations.
It falls to groups like ours and just to Texans that are concerned about these types of issues.
Common Cause often looks closely at big issues like gun reform or climate change and follows the money, especially to see if candidates are getting donations from groups with a stake in those issues. They're also on watch to see whether candidates use donations for personal gain.
It's usually something happens that makes us think there's something suspicious going on here. Like, for instance, I've seen office holders or candidates who are not yet elected to office, but they write books and then go on a book tour. Sometimes they'll sort of intermix the two, like they're doing campaign events while they're selling their books at the event. And there are potential ways that could violate campaign finance laws.
While the Texas Ethics Commission and the San Antonio City Clerk's Office don't review candidates' finances, they do take complaints.
The investigation isn't initiated unless we receive a complaint, and anybody in Texas can file a complaint with the Texas Ethics Commission.
In San Antonio, an ethics auditor reviews a local complaint to see whether it warrants an investigation and gives the candidate a chance to respond. If there's a violation, there could be a fine. It's a similar process at the state level, but someone has to scrutinize those campaign finance reports first.
The way the system's set up in Texas, it's pretty easy for an office holder to raise a ton of money and not use that money for its intended purposes, for campaigning or for office holder expenses, like for them to use it on themselves in a lot of ways.
So what happens to the money once a campaign is over?
They continue to collect donations after the election.
As long as somebody continues to file those 2 reports each year and disclose any activity out of that segregated campaign account, they can maintain those contributions indefinitely.
That's win or lose. An elected official at the state level has to submit those finance reports twice a year. In San Antonio, it's 4 times a year, and contribution limits still apply after a campaign is over. If a candidate or elected official decides to end their political career and they still have money in their campaign account, Texas spells out how they can get rid of it. They can give it to their political party, the state, a charity, a college for a scholarship program, back to the people who donated, or to a PAC or a candidate. And that candidate can be themselves for another office.
What he could do is make a contribution to another campaign. If that other campaign happens to be his own, he can do that. But it's also, that money would be subject to whatever the contribution limits are for that other seat.
Who gets to hold those seats is decided by voters. And it's also up to voters to follow the money that gets candidates there.
It is a terrible system, but that's kind of what you get when the politicians are making the rules for themselves.
You can watch any KSAT Explains story, including this one, by scanning this QR code. That will take you to our streaming library on all kinds of topics. That's where you can also let us know what you want to see explained. You can find our coverage on KSAT.com, the KSAT Plus app, and YouTube. We'll be right back.